Hello, everyone. Welcome to our 2023 annual report for Arizona End-of-Life Options. My name is Mark Savan. I'm the Executive Director of AZELO, as we call Arizona End-of-Life Options, and you'll hear me use AZELO throughout this presentation as a shortcut for what can be a lengthy name, Arizona End-of-Life Options. I'm gonna switch view here and show you who we are joined by tonight as we film this. I'm Mark. We're joined by Lesa, Abbey, who's our treasurer, and you're going to hear from Lesa in a little bit when we talk about our financial results for the last year and our plan for next year, and also by Marie McWhite, who in addition to being our newsletter editor is also producing the recording of this presentation. So here's our agenda. We're going to basically talk about the past year, 2023, in review, and then talk about the coming year. And one thing I want to note here is that we're using a fiscal year that ends on June 30th. We chose that as a fiscal year because it better aligns with the legislative process, with the legislative session, and when the bulk of our activities happen. So when you hear me talk about 2023, that's going to be July of 2022 through the end of June 2023. Likewise, 2024 goes from July of 2024 to June of 2025. So if we talk about 2023, kind of the big theme was we have a shift, right? We had a virtual world here for a while, and you'll see as we talk about what we did this year and our plans for next year, we really had a shift in emphasis from virtual to in-person. Now, over the last couple of years, we've done a lot of webinars. Those have been very well attended, but we felt that shifting our emphasis to in-person events was the thing to do. Now, the archives of the webinars, of selected webinars, remain available through our website, so you can access that information, and it's a lot of good information, I think, on the website. You can see some examples of those webinars here. Likewise, we launched and recorded and executed a series of podcasts last year. These remain available through our website or wherever you get your podcasts. And I think the very interesting thing about this series is that, as you can see on the screen, it's different perspectives on medical aid and dying. And a lot of people have their opinions formed informed by groups that they belong to. And this series provides interesting perspectives on various groups and how they view medical aid and dying. And I would encourage you to check it out again, either through our website or wherever you get your podcasts. The one thing that is continuing is our newsletter. It's published monthly. It is our primary vehicle for communicating with all of you, our supporters. We continue to publish that every month, have for a while now. We'll continue into the future. The story in 2023 is that we grew our distribution on that. In other words, our number of subscribers pretty substantially. And you can see from the beginning of 2023 of our fiscal year to the end of our fiscal year, from June of 2022 to July of 2023, we had a very significant increase in our newsletter subscribers. And as I mentioned before, Marie is the publisher of that and continues to do a great job putting some great information out every month. So I know most of you who are looking at this will be subscribers to that and will be reading it. Would encourage you to pass it on to anyone else who you think may be interested in the really good content there. So we did start and continued in-person events in the past year. Many of those in our Southern District. Mary Ganapole down in Tucson does a great job of organizing and planning and executing these events, but you can see a wide variety of events, in-person events, took place during the past year. We're going to talk about even more happening in the coming year, again, as we shift to in-person emphasis. Ultimately, right, what we want to do is educate the public on medical aid and dying and ultimately get a law passed. Now, we did not get that law passed. We did not get a hearing, and we were disappointed in that. But we did make significant progress on the legislative front. A tremendous increase in the amount of participation as far as letters written to legislators, letters written to the health committee members, in-person meetings with health committee members and with legislators. And we're going to talk in just a little bit about the importance of the 16 legislators who are on the Health and Human Services Committee. That's the committee that hears our bills and can recommend that this law be moved on to the general legislature, the larger legislative body, to be voted upon. We're going to talk about the importance of that, but we didn't get a hearing this year, but we feel good about the progress we made. We feel good about how much we learned about the process. But our big takeaway is we need to start this work earlier in the year. We really started our press on this on the legislative front in January when the legislative session started. We need to start that earlier this coming year, and we'll talk about that in just a couple minutes. One of the things you may have seen, and you definitely saw it, whether you noticed it or not, that we switched our enterprise platform to something called Action Network. And this allowed us to make it, I think, far simpler and far more straightforward for all of you, our supporters, to write to legislators. And we saw a tremendous increase in participation in our letter writing campaign. This year, we had 2,300 letters written to legislators. That compares to last year, we had about 50. So we went from 50 to 2,300. Thank you to all of you who participated in that. It made a difference. We definitely were heard on this issue, and this is something that we'll continue to press forward with in the coming year. But this platform that we had really allowed us to make it a far easier task to do that. We got better participation in it. We're able to track things like email open rates and how well we're interacting with people and how well the material that we put out there is being received. So it's been very effective for us, and we're going to continue to use it, of course. So looking back at the last 12 months of financials, I'm going to turn it over to Lesa, and she'll talk to you a little bit about what our financials were for the prior year.
Hi, this is Lesa, and I just wanted to go over where we ended up at the end of the year. And as Mark mentioned previously, our year end ends on June 30th. So we've just finished fiscal year ending June 2023. For our revenue, we had two revenue streams. The most important one to us is the donations from individuals, and that means all of you as individuals. And the second one is grants from other nonprofits. And that revenue stream is coming from our national partners, Death with Dignity and Compassion and Choices. And then we have our expenditures, and we had educational outreach and direct lobbying, which we did our lobbying to our state legislators for $8,800. We also had supporter acquisition. Mark, do you want to talk about that?
Sure, Lesa, thanks. So supporter acquisition was a campaign where we went out, we used a platform called Care2, when we went out and put digital ads out there to get people to come subscribe to our newsletter and become supporters of AZELO. And that may have been what got some of you here. That's cost $5,000, so these things are not free. That was actually one of the major grants that we got from one of our national partners funded that as kind of a test case for it. So we don't have that in the budget for the coming year, but that was what that was for, to get more people in the fold as supporters. That was funded by a grant from one of our national partners. Great, so that's the review of the past year. And what we want to talk to you about now is our plans for the coming year, for what we're calling fiscal 2024. As I mentioned, right, our emphasis has shifted from digital or virtual presentations to in-person presentations. And we've got a pretty good slate set up for the coming year. A variety of organizations, social or activist organizations. We have some residential education organizations, and then some medical organizations that we have presentations scheduled with. And we do have a nice schedule. I feel good about it, but we do have the capacity to do more. So if you have a lead for us, and several of these that you see on the screen did come from our early requests through our newsletter for leads for presentations. But if you do have one, please reach out. You've got my email address there. You can also find my email address on the website under the contact page of our website. So if you do have an organization that you think would be interested in hearing from us, please let us know. We'd be glad to follow up on that. Very appreciative of any help that any of you can give us in that front. I mentioned before the big takeaway that we had from our legislative activity, from our lobbying and education of legislator activity in 2023, is that we needed to start earlier. The other thing I would say is we want to be more focused. What you see on the screen here, this is the Health and Human Services Committee. This is the composition for the 2023 legislative session, but we already know the composition of the 2024. There's no election that's going to happen before January of 2024. So we know who the committee members are going to be. They're very likely to be the same that they were last year. So we can start earlier and we can be more focused. And that's our intention. And you can see on the screen, we're planning on starting in September, and we're planning on focusing on these 16 people here, with our primary objective being to get a hearing on our bill this year, something we've not been able to do in the past. And we will once again call on you all to make your voices heard. And if you're living in one of the legislative districts that's shown here, it's particularly important for you to reach out to these legislators and let them know where you stand on MAID. We'll put a program together to do that, but it is very, very powerful for these legislators to hear from their constituents on issues upon which their constituents are passionate. And if you've been reading our newsletter, and I certainly hope that you have, you know that we've formalized our structure. So as you can see now, we're officially incorporated, and we have two organizations. AZELO is a 501c3, so that is a charitable organization. And the activity that we have concentrated in AZELO is general, providing information and general education of the public and the legislator about end-of-life options, including medical aid in dying. Okay. For legal and financial reasons, we are only allowed to do a limited amount of what we would call lobbying in that charitable organization. So we've created a separate organization, Choices Arizona, which is a 501c4. That is our lobbying arm. And when Lesa talks about our financial plan for 2024, here in a couple minutes, she's going to talk about both of those organizations separately. Combined, they make AZELO, but they do different things. So why have we done all this? Why have we done the formalization? We have been depending on one of our national partners for financial management. We no longer need to do that. That's going to make things much more efficient for us. It's going to give direct visibility to donations. We can apply to grants. We can be more transparent to you, our supporters and our donors, about how we're using the money. It just makes it far easier to communicate these things and be responsible to you all for communicating how we're using your donations. So here's our financial plan. As I mentioned, we've got AZELO, which is the charitable organization of 501c3. We've got Choices, which is the political fund. What we have done on this, we have a total revenue number here. We've selected that so that the budget balances. So you'll see at the bottom of the page here, the net income is 0. We put the revenue in there so that we had a balanced budget. So it's our job to obtain that revenue this year. As Lesa mentioned earlier, we have two sources for doing that: grants from our national partners and donations from all of you. So we will be coming out to you shortly, a little bit later here in the summer, with a fundraising campaign. And we're going to ask for your continued support. Very appreciative of the support you all have given us in the past. But what we're doing costs money. And so we'll be coming out and asking for your donations in the coming months. As Lesa goes through this, you'll know exactly what those donations are going to be used for. So with that, I'll turn over to Lesa.
Hi, I'm going to talk about some of the expenditures, and I will hit on the main ones. You can see the marketing, exhibits, and conferences, and that would be AZELO, and that is for setting up and paying for spots that we present our information at different exhibits and conferences around the state. Next one is educational outreach. And this is the cost for AZELO again, which again, remember, is the 501c3. And this is what we're going to be spending on reaching you and our legislators to educate them on what our goals are and just letting everybody know. And we've had very good results with that. Direct lobbying, Choices Arizona, that is for the lobbying activity. And again, it's in Choices, which is the 501c4, which can do the lobbying work. We have other basic ones that we have, like insurance and bank fees. But one of the things I want you to notice is there is no payroll on here. I think this is a very important point, that all of us that work on this are volunteers. So absolutely nobody is being paid to run either Arizona End of Life Options or Choices Arizona. And I think that's about it, but I just want to say again that total contributions up at the top, that is you. So we really encourage you to not think that you have to even give a big amount, although we would love a large amount. But we have people that give $5 every month. And even those small amounts all add up, and we're very appreciative for that. So thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Lisa. Yeah, and on those, on the big expenditures here, that is, we did last year, we hired a lobbying firm. We intend to hire a lobbying firm this coming year. Part of what they're going to do is going to be general education. That's in the AZELO, the 10,000. And part of what they're going to do is lobbying for a specific bill. And that is the 10,500 in Choices. So that's our financial plan. That's what we had today. And as Lisa just mentioned, there's no payroll. We're all volunteers, and here we are. So this page that you're looking at now, this is our former and current steering team. This is kind of the heart of the people who are doing the day-to-day stuff with AZELO. So this group of people you're looking at here, in addition to all of you, we are AZELO. And we are the people who are advocating for this issue and feel passionate about it. So on behalf of all the people that you're looking at here, on behalf of Marie and Lisa and myself, I would like to thank you all for all of your support, all of your passion on this issue, and we'll keep moving forward. So thank you all.